And this is Dabu 7. That is a look at the missiles being launched towards Syria. And this has a lot of people highly upset at this point in what's happening with the bombs being dropped in this region. Now they're saying 50 to 60 Tomahawks launched on these airfields in the Homs region. And it's yet to be seen how far they're going to carry this. We know Russia is there backing Assad in Syria, and it seems that the Trump administration is saying that Assad has no future in being the leader in Syria, and now they're dropping bombs on key targets. So how far will this escalate? We have some out there thinking that we're on the verge of full-scale war with Russia, and then there's also the talk of striking North Korea here at the same time. A lot of these theaters of war could take off at the same time. And you can't forget the situation we have in Ukraine and Crimea, where NATO is wanting to go at Russia as it is. So Kaliningrad, key for Russia. I said before, keep an eye on that. And at this point, U.S. Western-backed forces launching missiles on Syria. I will continue to update with more information as I come across it. Stay tuned for more. It's been Dabu 7.
Joining us now with new information is our own Jennifer Griffin once again. Jennifer.
Sean, we've just gotten details from the Pentagon about those Tomahawk missiles that first landed at this Syria Air Base at 8:45 p.m. Eastern tonight. We understand that the total number of Tomahawks fired was 59 Tomahawks. Those two U.S. destroyers, the USS Porter and USS Ross, could carry up to 70 missiles, we were told. They have now fired 59 at this one air base. We're also told that we should expect soon imagery after aftermath imagery from that air base at Shariat. That is near the town of Homs. It's about 120 miles from where the sarin gas attack occurred. We also expect imagery released by the Pentagon of the flight path of the the Syrian plane, the Sukhoi 24, that took off from the Shariat air base and flew and dropped the sarin gas bomb on that village 72 hours ago. The Pentagon to release that imagery soon. We're told that this was, the Pentagon is describing it as a proportional strike. We also are told that the Pentagon warned the Russians multiple times about this strike prior to the Tomahawks landing at this air base. They did so through a hotline that is established between what is known as the KAOK, the command center in the Middle East, the U.S. uses, and Latakia, which is the base used by Russia inside Syria. So there were multiple warnings to the Russians, commander to commander. Remember, General Joe Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has met with his Russian counterpart recently in Turkey to establish and reestablish that hotline in the event of this kind of incident. We also are told, Sean, that there were Russian forces at this base of Shariat until recently. It's not clear whether they were still there tonight, but again, the U.S. military did warn through that hotline Russian forces that they were going to carry out this Tomahawk strike today. Sean?
Well, there were interesting comments by one Russian diplomat earlier this week saying that their support is not unconditional as it relates to Syria and Assad, said after the attack. You had a great description earlier of these 18-foot-long, 2 feet wide, 1,000-pound Tomahawk missiles and their slow path trajectory. Can you explain that again for those that are just joining us?
Yes, Sean. In fact, remember, the Tomahawk missile, a cruise missile, was first introduced during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. And these are essentially flying telephone poles, if you will. They are fired from Navy destroyers, and they fly at about 500 miles per hour. So you can see them with the naked eye when they are flying. They're about 18 feet long, 2 feet wide, and you can imagine that if they were, once they were fired from the USS Porter and USS Ross, which were in the eastern Mediterranean, it could take up to 30, 45 minutes before they actually landed, because they can be fired from 1,000 miles away. So those destroyers could be quite some distance away. We also understand, Sean, that those two destroyers can carry up to 70 missiles. They've now fired 59. To resupply, we're told those Tomahawk missiles are stored at Suda Bay, which is a U.S. base in Crete, Greece. So those destroyers would have to resupply at this point in order to continue if there were any follow-on attacks. Now, we understand that this is a limited attack, a proportional attack, as the Pentagon said. It is designed to send a message to Bashar Assad, but also to the Russians, that the U.S. has said that they are willing to work with the Russians possibly to fight against ISIS. We have 1,000 U.S. troops on the ground in Syria preparing to help forces, Kurdish forces and other Syrian forces that the U.S. has trained to take Raqqa, which is the ISIS capital. So this was designed to send a message to Bashar Assad to stop using chemical weapons, to never use chemical weapons again. He was a signatory in 2013 to the chemical weapons treaty, suggesting he wouldn't. But another point, Sean, is that tonight there was a meeting at the UN Security Council that was indecisive. And in prior administrations, I believe that it would be safe to say that while the UN Security Council debated issues, a resolution on Syria and the chemical weapons attack, that in a White House or administration would have waited for those debates to finish. And tonight we were told that the U.S. wanted a vote on the resolution. Russia was blocking it. They expected Russia to block the resolution in the end, as they have 7 times in the past. And so this president did not wait. This president ordered a unilateral airstrike against Syria to send a stern message that chemical weapon attacks are not acceptable. Sean?
Obviously, there will be this is to prevent further mass casualties and attacks, and a message has been sent. Before I go to General Jack Keane, I wouldn't doubt that there are politicos out there that would make hay over the fact, knowing that at this particular air base in Syria, that Russian soldiers were there, that they were tipped off. Here we go. We've had 8 months of this Russian conspiracy, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But that would be standard operating procedure, would it not?
I think in a civilized world, that is what one does, military to military. In fact, it's notable that the timing of the Tomahawk airstrikes would be at a time when there would be the fewest amount of people at that air base. So this is designed to send a signal, to send a message. It was not designed to inflict casualties per se. There are likely casualties at the base, but we'll be getting more details about that. But again, from a military perspective, it was the right thing to do to use this hotline that's been established between the two militaries to explain that we're not at war with Russia. We're not striking Russian soldiers, but we are, defending the right of the free world to basically say that the use of chemical weapons is not acceptable.
And also to add to that, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, said clearly Russia has failed in its responsibility to deliver on their commitment to stop these kind of attacks. Either Russia has been complicit or simply incompetent on delivering its end of that agreement. So clearly strong statement and actions against Russia in this strike tonight. Jennifer Griffin.